Well, I wanted to tell you that Jimbo and I, at the weekend, went up to Coomb Hill. I wasn't quite sure where that marker was. In my video the other day, when I was saying that public rights have been cut off, I wasn't quite sure where the marker was to show this highest point. So me and Jimbo went to this field, but it was actually opposite here, like. It was all barbed wire up. You could see where you could climb over the fence because it's a public right of way, but it now says private and it's all got barbed wire around it. So what it is that Jimbo says that we're going back soon and we're going to cut the wire with a box cutter. So he's a rebel. Anyway, he didn't like that because it's public. He's going to cut it open. Yeah, so we can go in there because it's a public right of way. But anyway, that's a future project. But we went up to Coomb. It does have some amazing views. But you see this? This is the Wessex Downs. And there are hills on it. But you see generally how flat it is, even though it's called the Wessex Downs. And then, of course, up here, I've got another picture of it, is where Coomb Hill is, the one that I like. And then we park at the bottom of here. And we've got a very good view of the Wessex Downs up here. So basically I talk about Coomb Hill. So that's what this whole hill is. And on Coomb Hill, that's the hangman's noose that was. And we park the car just below. And this here, see there's a bit of it there. That is the old fort. Yeah, with these beautiful views. This field was gated off. The same thing like private, but you've got these views. It was a little bit hazy that day, as you can see. But then we went to the Jack Russell pub. And of course, Floss now is at home because she's a Jack Russell. Anyway, we just went there and Jimbo loved it. Called Coomb. Has a really nice pond in front, but anyway, we just took a picture of the Jack Russell pub. And we took this picture, me and Jimbo. Yes, he's lovely. He says I can say, I can talk about him on the channel. He says you can say what say nice things about me. Yes, he's lovely. Really nice person. Really am enjoying this whole thing with Jimbo, and I'll play him this video. He's giving me a very nice time, and I'm very pleased about that. We seem to have quite a lot in common, and he feels me and I feel him. So imagine the magic we're going to have. But anyway, on to the next picture. Strange really, there was more than that. There was, oh well, that's another time. That's another, we've gone on too far. There was loads of these things on the road. We followed them a bit because they wouldn't, and then eventually they flew off. But anyway, then we went to this pub. Now I love those flowers. Don't they look lovely? And we went for a nice, oh, too far. We went for a nice meal at the Carnarvon Arms. And that's Berkeley. It's kind of on the edge of this whole hill that Coomb sits on. One of my favourite places. And then last night I took these pictures because this is a really old building. So Jimbo is a builder. So I said to him, how old do you think that building is? I said, do you think that's real and original? He looked at it and he said, yeah, I think this was built in the 1600s. Now it is actually a very nice pub. The frontage is gorgeous, but it is. This road here is very busy. Obviously at night time it's not so busy. So there you go, there's another picture of it. It's a very nice building. Nice big window. You can see that this is kind of, he said 1600, so we're talking of Henry VIII. And this this comes out a bit further than the bottom, and it kind of looks, you know, when you're standing in front of it. Let's go to another picture. When you're looking at this, it just reminds you of pirates, you know, that time. So yeah, very nice building. Shame about the location, but anyway, doesn't that look beautiful? There's Jimbo. Very nice indeed. With little Floss. Look, they've both got Floss down here, and him up there, skull and crossbones. And how apt that we went there, and it's a bit like a pirate's den. And he did have a few buildings at the back, and in the end Jimbo thought that one was older, and obviously this bit here, and he felt that that building there was a little bit younger. We went there for dinner, had a nice food there, and yes, I like old buildings. Another picture of me and Jimbo. I think actually he's just giving me a kiss. A kiss? Yes, and then I noticed that door up there. So obviously it would have had steps originally, and this bit is new, but yeah, door up there. And then the gardens, which were quite nice. There's another one, I think. Is there another one? Oh, yeah, there you go. There's that one there. Nice gardens. The little river running through it, trickling around. So you've got that nice sort of feeling as you're eating your meal. Anyway, so 2 lovely dates with Jimbo. Anyway, thanks for watching my little video. And the next bit is just very fascinating. I hope the person doesn't mind. James sent it to me. Please go over to his channel, and very interesting information, and then a little bit at the end. Anyway, thanks for watching. What's your thoughts?
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Jolly Heretic. Now, J.F. Gary Eppie, who, as you may know, has been on my show a number of times, and I've been on his, has put out a very interesting tweet in which he notes that if you are, as a white person, have a child by a sub-Saharan African, then you are about as related to your own child as you would be to a random member of your white population. And this is extremely interesting, and I want to look at how this conclusion can be reached.
Well, I found this video very interesting. James sent it to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a few minutes of his video and put it on. And if you want to go and see the whole video, please go over to his channel and watch it on his channel. But I found this very interesting indeed. And he's talking back to the 1700s. That just makes so much sense. 1700s. We're all related. If you're marrying people, your cousins, even if you're 10th cousins, 5th cousins, you're still related. Listen to what this guy says. I found it very fascinating, and thank you very much, James. And always interesting to hear these things. Great video. Please go over to the Jolly Heretic, and watch the whole video. Thanks a lot.
Right, back to the video. So, how does this work? Well, it's a very interesting book which I encourage you to read called On Genetic Interests by Frank Salter, in which he looks at the mathematics behind this. So, in essence, 2 random English people are 12th cousins. This means that they have a common ancestor about 500 years ago. You can quantify how related different ethnic groups are in terms of cousinness. So, for example, if you were to divide the world between just English people and just Danish people, then two random English people would become the equivalent of something like seventh cousins, the equivalent. Because based on the genetic distance from Danes, which is not large, then they would be more related to each other than they would be to a random Dane. So consequently, they would be something like seventh cousins, which implies a common ancestor in perhaps 1700, something along those lines. The bigger the genetic distances between the populations, then of course the more closely related two random people of the same ethnic group become in relation to another ethnic group. So if we look at it in terms of the relationship between two random English people and two Bantu, if the world is just English people and Bantu, i.e. Western Sub-Saharan Africans, then the relationship between two English people becomes essentially brother and sister. Not seventh cousin, brother and sister, or even twins, somewhere between the two, because that is how large the genetic distance is.
I thought he said back to the 1700s, but then he says 500 years. So that would be older than that, wouldn't it, if we're 2024? We're talking of the 1500s. I said Henry VIII, didn't I? So we are talking back there. Kind of makes sense. This is when I think this big thrash of religion happened with the Romans, and religion happened, and the religion, and all that's thrust on maybe a new set of people here, us, the next lot. But very incredible that we're all like, that you can, you know, with English people, you'll all be like 10th cousins. You're like, what were they doing? Were they breeding us or something? Yes, I'll sleep with 25,000 women to get the population. What the hell's that about if the genes mean that we have a lot of the same gene pools, but not with Africa? Anyway, I just found that very interesting. Thank you very much to this person. As I said, go over to his channel and watch the whole video.
As a consequence, you can calculate how much damage it will do to you to breed in terms of genetic interest, in terms of passing on more of your genes, how much damage it will do to your genetic interest by breeding exogamously. So, if you were in a situation where you could choose to, as an English person, to have a child with a sub-Saharan African or have a child with another English person, then having a child with another English person would increase your genetic interests, i.e. increase the percent of your genes passed on by 92%. And if that was with something even more distant, such as an Australian Aboriginal, then it would be perhaps 100%. So this then allows you to quantify what is going on, and it explains why people tend to marry endogamously. It's genetic similarity theory. We want to pass on more of our genes, we want to pass on as many of our genes as we can. We don't want to have a child with someone that's too genetically similar to us, because this will cause inbreeding depression, this will cause double doses of mutant genes, it will cause a sickly child. But we don't want to breed with a person that's too distant from us, because then we will pass on fewer of our genes than we otherwise could. So we tend to go, there was a research in Iceland on this, we tend to go for our third cousin or the genetic equivalent thereof, i.e. a couple of percent above the baseline of the population. And that can be a literal third cousin, or it can be a third or fourth or fifth, but around that area, or it can be a person that just by genetic chance has that level of genetic commonality with oneself. Now, there are some people who are inclined to outbreed. This is not a random sample of the population. There are studies on this by a guy called Seb Jensen, for example.
Two drawings likely representing the flooding and dry seasons in ancient Egypt. The question is, how can an egg dating back 6,500 years feature depictions of structures that had not yet been constructed? In 1907, British archaeologist Mallaby Cecil Firth discovered an ostrich egg in a tomb from Naqada I culture in Nubia. The artifact was dated back to between 4000 and 4500 BC. Remarkably, some theorists claim that the etchings on the egg bear a striking resemblance to the pyramids of Giza, displaying a familiar pattern from right to left. The Great Pyramid, followed by the second and third pyramids. Additionally, on the right side, there is a depiction reminiscent of a snake or zigzag, evoking the Nile River, and two drawings likely representing the flooding and dry seasons in ancient Egypt. The question is, how can an egg dating back 6,500 years feature depictions of structures that had not yet been constructed?